Good afternoon. I am Zachary Parker, Chair of the Committee on Youth Affairs. Today is Monday, June 23rd, 2025. We're meeting in room 500 of the John A. Wilson Building and virtually via Zoom. The time is now 12:34 p.m., and I am calling to order this additional meeting of the committee. We have a quorum consisting of at-large Councilmember Kenya McDuffie and at-large Councilmember Robert White. We are also joined by Chairman Middleton. And today's committee business includes one measure for consideration, the report and recommendations of the Committee on Youth Affairs on the fiscal year 2026 budget for agencies under its purview. I want to first thank the Committee on Youth Affairs staff, Thomas Franco, Joe Dweck, and Allie Bailey, and other members of my legislative team, Connor Shaw, Nefertari Brown, and Sam Bonner. They have worked with skill and focus through long days and nights on a difficult budget proposal. I also want to thank the Council Budget Office for their diligence and work to ensure that we can have a balanced and verified budget. We have before us a robust committee report due in no small part to their tireless efforts. This year, I've been singularly focused on what I'm calling a budget for all of us. The budget proposal the council received just 4 weeks ago made drastic cuts to critical lifelines and services across the city, including in the Committee on Youth Affairs' major agencies, the Child and Family Services Agency, or CFSA, and Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services, or DRS. Reductions included an elimination of CFSA's Safe Shores partnership, which is used to investigate sexual and physical abuse against children. At DRS, there was not sufficient funding for full implementation of the Road Act, directly hindering our ability to meet our recidivism reduction goals. What's more, the mayor's proposal completely cut the Office of the Ombudsperson for Children, or OFC. Coupled with the elimination of other supports for children and families, a zeroing out of the district child tax credit, slashing of baby bonds, and a reduction of the mechanism to pay for our schools in future years, the universal student per federal funding in future levels, we faced a bleak prospect of pulling the rug out from under working families and some of our most vulnerable neighbors. With this in mind, the committee takes critical steps to enhance the well-being of district children and countering the child welfare system by providing a $200,000 one-time enhancement to support CFSA's efforts to recruit social workers with the goal of reducing staff caseloads and strengthening services for young people in the agency's care. We also restore full funding of the Safe Shores program by $1.35 million to maintain critical investigatory support for cases involving physical and sexual violence against youth through a transfer of funds from the Committee on Facilities. And we restore $200,000 in funding for home visiting services to offset a reduction in federal subsidies to CFSA and to support community-based programs that deliver services to family in their homes. The committee also makes recommendations with regard to the Office of the Ombudsperson for Children, which is committed to working collaboratively across systems that impact CFSA to foster improved outcomes, strengthen service delivery, and increase accountability. The OFC receives complaints and makes recommendations for resolution of complaints from CFSA constituents involving an administrative act or from a CFSA's affiliate. The mayor sought to eliminate this office again this year. However, the committee strikes the mayor's BSA subtitle and instead partially restores funding to the OFC with a reduction of only 1 FTE. I believe in the potential of this office and look forward to ramping up oversight of the team's work this fall to ensure there is greater evidence of its value add and that they can scale their work with CFSA constituents. I want to thank Councilmember Nadeau and the Committee on Public Works and Operations for a transfer of $500,000 to provide for this restoration of funding. At DRS, our agency responsible for the supervision, custody, and care of young people charged with a delinquent act in the district, the committee makes an investment in the educational services provided at the Youth Services Center, or YSC, by recommending a $500,000 one-time enhancement to enable the See Forever Foundation, or Maya Angelou Public Charter School, which provides education services to YSC youth to hire additional teachers, purchase necessary supporting technology, and establish pay equity between educators within the agency and their peers within the broader education system. Undoubtedly, improving educational outcomes for youth Even those temporarily housed at YSC will increase the likelihood of these young people living more productive lives after detention. I look forward to working closely with Maya Angelou's team to innovate to ensure more young people at DRS receive a quality education. The committee also takes steps to address the gap in opportunities available for youth held at New Beginnings by establishing a one-year pre-apprenticeship training pilot grant program for detained youth. Through this new grant program, youth will be provided specialized workforce training that will increase access to gainful employment in on-demand sectors and expand career opportunities upon exiting detention. The vision is clear. Let's leverage the time we have with you to meet their basic need and put them on a path towards future success through academics and work-life skills. This apprenticeship training, too, will increase the likelihood of future success of youth following detention. I am grateful to Councilmember Anita Bonds and the Committee on the Executive Administration and Labor for making this grant program possible through a $300,000 transfer. The committee also continues its commitment to the full implementation of the Road Act and recidivism reduction at DRS with a more than $500,000 investment in fiscal year 26 and a $2.1 million investment across the financial plan for the addition of 4 FTEs tasked with implementing certain provisions of the Road Act to accelerate placements for youth committed to DRS. The Road Act mandates that the agency create individualized rehabilitation plans, enhances independent oversight of the agency, and strengthens reentry planning for youth. With these same recidivism reduction goals in mind, the committee makes a $650,000 investment to establish a pilot program that provides case management support for youth exiting DRS to connect them to housing, mentorship, and educational and workforce opportunities. I fully believe that our commitment to detained youth cannot end once their detention ends. The goal of this pilot is to ensure that young people who are enrolled or exiting DRS are attending schools, seeking employment, and staying out of trouble. The hope is to leverage data from this pilot in future years to inform DRS's reentry work to further drive down rates of recidivism. And I think I misspoke. It is an investment of $500,000, not $650,000. There are also several transfers out of the committee to allow for the funding of critical youth investments in other committees, recognizing the need to bolster efforts to support children and families before they encounter the district's child welfare and juvenile justice systems. The committee, 1, fully funds the Child Behavioral Health Dashboard Act of 2024 by means of transfer of funds to the Committee on Health. The Child Behavioral Health Services Dashboard Act of 2024 addresses this shortcoming by requiring the Deputy Mayor of Health and Human Services to create a publicly available dashboard of behavioral health services in the district to ensure a system of care for children, youth, and their families. Other jurisdictions, including Philadelphia and Baltimore, have established centralized dashboards where this information is available in a single location to accelerate and simplify progress of finding services for children. 2, we ensure that the truancy prevention pilot administered by the Department of Human Services will operate in a middle school in the 2025-26 school year. District children and their families are facing enormous pressures today, which manifest themselves in countless ways. Among the most alarming statistics are the high rates of truancy and absenteeism in district public schools. I continue to argue that truancy operations should not live within CFSA, as it is not the best suited agency to support families. The ongoing truancy pilot at DHS is showing signs of success. And by extending the pilot to a middle school, we further draw impact as we think of long-term solutions of transferring this work to another agency, namely DHS. 3, we restore workforce development grants for gender nonconforming youth and adults, as we know how critical it is to remove barriers for these neighbors. We know there are high rates of discrimination in hiring and workplaces. According to the National Center for Transgender Equality, over 25% of trans people have lost their job due to bias, and rates are even higher for young people and people of color. These types of grant-funded programs can provide affirming job readiness training, safe employer connections, and education for workplaces on inclusive practices. 4, we restore transitional youth housing, also through a transfer to the Committee on Human Services. 4.2 million young people in the United States experience a form of homelessness, and nearly half of all young people who experience homelessness do so more than once. Fortunately, our point-in-time count this year showed a roughly 10% decrease in individual youth homelessness year-to-date here in the district, and a 35.8% decrease among transitional age youth-headed families. We must double down on our efforts to support transitional youth housing. 5, we make a sizable down payment on efforts by the full council to restore the district child tax credit, which the mayor repealed in her fiscal year 26 budget through a $1 million investment in fiscal year 26 and a $13.3 million investment over the financial plan through a transfer to the Committee of the Whole. The child tax credit is a proven policy tool to reduce child and family poverty, promote stability, and support long-term positive outcomes for children. Research consistently shows that raising the economic floor for families through refundable tax credits improves educational performance, health outcomes, and future earning potential. Reversing the mayor's proposed cut to the district child tax credit is essential because even modest enhancements to a family's resources bolsters child and family success. When implemented at the federal level in 2021, the temporary expansion of the child tax credit cut child poverty in half from 9.7% in 2020 to 5.2% in 2021. According to the Center on Poverty and Social Policy, child poverty in the district dropped to 13.8% in 2021 compared to nearly 22.8% before the expansion. These gains undoubtedly inform child outcomes and ultimately speak to improved youth well-being. Scaling the district child tax credit will have similar positive outcomes for youth over time. While these investments represent meaningful progress towards the Committee on Youth Affairs' stated goals, we know the significant needs remain within CFSA and DRS that could not be fully addressed with the limited budgetary resources available to the committee. Specifically, I remain concerned about the adequacy of rehabilitation services provided to youth in DRS custody, the impact of staffing challenges on the quality of those services, and the continued delays in placing youth at YSC. Within CFSA, I am especially concerned about the attrition of critical staff, especially social workers, and the inadequacy of subsidies available to foster parents, grandparents, and kinship caregivers. Looking ahead, the committee is committed to advocating for both budgetary and non-budgetary measures to further advance its goals and better support the district's most vulnerable youth. So with that, I'm going to turn to my colleagues if there is any discussion. And I will recognize at-large Councilmember Robert White.
Thank you, Chairperson Parker. I want to thank you and your team for all of the work that you all have done here, along with the Budget Office, who provides a lot of incredible support to your committee, to my committee, and to the rest of the council. You have in this budget, I believe, ensured that the voices of children and youth are heard in the committee's budget proposal. I want to take a moment to lift up just a few investments that I believe reflect the best of what we can do, even in a tight budget year. And this budget is proof that when we stay focused on fairness, accountability, and supporting families, we can still do meaningful work, even with limited resources. The first thing I want to lift up, unfortunately, it's every year, is Safe Shores. Safe Shores is one of the most critical institutions in our city when it comes to protecting and supporting our most vulnerable residents, which is our children. The trauma that children face from abuse can leave lasting scars, but Safe Shores provides them with compassionate professional care they need to begin healing. And this is a program that should not be on the chopping block every year. So I want to thank you and your team for stepping up to the plate on that. But year after year, the mayor proposes to cut the ombudsman for children. It's become ridiculous at this point. This office should play a vital role in oversight, a vital oversight role in our child welfare system. It gives families a place to raise concerns, flag systemic problems, and brings transparency where it is needed. And so restoring these positions was essential, and I fully support the committee's decision to do that. On youth reentry support, the new reentry pilot is a critical investment in connecting youth exiting DYRS with housing, education, job training, mental health services, helps break the cycle of detention and gives young people a real path forward. You know, as we talk about safety in our city, and we want to see a city that is safe today, a year from now, 5 years from now, we have to break those cycles. And too often, those are the first things we turn away from, and we can't do that. So I appreciate your work here. In implementing the DYRS reform, we passed, as you mentioned, the ROAD Act to move kids out of detention faster and into services, again, to help them rehabilitate, get on the right track. This budget funds the staff needed to make that law real, and it's a key step toward reducing unnecessary detention and improving outcomes for our young people. Finally, fixing the social worker shortage at CFSA. Again, as you mentioned in your remarks, the high caseloads put families and children at risk. That's why I established the Pathways to Behavioral Health Degrees Act of 2023 to expand the local pipeline of behavioral health professionals in response to the extensively reported shortage in caseworkers that we need to process housing vouchers and to work with our young people. This committee's decision to repurpose longstanding vacancies to improve hiring and retention is the right call and long overdue. So again, a lot of attention to detail from you and your team, and just tremendous work. I appreciate it and look forward to voting in support of this budget recommendation.
Thank you. Thank you. I will note that on the Safe Shores investment, I did follow up with the CFSA team to inquire about the assertion that the agency could absorb that work. And it was made clear that that is more of a theoretical premise than one of reality at this time. In fact, it was made clear the agency would have to outfit their current facility to even conduct interviews, and they are not ready today to do so. So if we were not to invest in Safe Shores, that critical work of investigating physical and sexual abuse of youth would be hindered, at least for a certain period of time. So I did just want to note that as that has come up. Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, yes. I will turn over to at-large Councilmember Kenya McDuffie.
Just a brief moment to congratulate you and your entire team at the committee for all the work that you all have put into what I believe is your first budget markup as chair. Having done this several times, I know how much it goes into it during an ordinary budget year, during an ordinary budget process. But you've done this and your team has done this under extraordinary circumstances. And so I really want to just recognize you for all the work that you all have done to get to this point. We appreciate all your efforts. I'll without rehashing or restating things that Councilmember White has recognized, all worthy things, I also want to just lift up that you all have accepted funding, that we accepted funding at CBED, the Committee on Business and Economic Development, that you sent over for the Mulanda. And we want to recognize as well, I think it's worth noting that you established a reentry program for youth exiting detention that you referenced, which I think is really noteworthy, an effort that hopefully will try to reduce recidivism. And so I want to thank you for putting that pilot in your budget as well. So a lot of work has gone into this. I think you have.
Thank you, Councilmember. I think we lost you at the end, but I think the sentiment is clear. And no, I want to thank you for your partnership. We worked closely with a number of committees. As you mentioned, this is our first committee markup in a interesting budget year, but I think where we landed is something that is making me proud, and I think will move the needle for young people. So with that, I move the committee print and report for recommendations of the Committee on Youth Affairs on the fiscal year 2026 budget for agencies under its purview. Will leave for staff to make technical and conforming changes. All those in favor of approving this committee print, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Let the record show that the ayes have it and it is unanimous. With that, the business of the committee is concluded. The time is now 12:54 p.m. and this additional meeting of the Committee on Youth Affairs is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you all.